Episode Heresy is just around the corner, and some older, lesser loved exotic weapons are getting some much needed buffs. Today I'm going to go through these exotic weapons. I'm going to let you know which ones to grab out of your vault when episode Heresy rolls around in Destiny 2. Without further delay, let's dive into the exotic weapons to check out in episode Heresy. First of all, we've got Lauren's Driver. So this was once a terror in the Crucible, and has since caught a number of changes to its efficacy. So since then it's struggled to compete in most activity types, and Bungie say they've made a few changes that are going to reward you for playing its bounty game successfully and keeping it going into further encounters. So picking up a bounty tag now grants 1 ammo to the magazine. Triggering Lagrangian Sight by picking up a bounty tag adds 6 ammo to the mag the first time you trigger it, so that is a really nice buff there, and returns to adding 1 ammo per tag on extension while the buff remains active. Well, next up we've got Delicate Tomb, and this one looks very good in the next episode considering the focus on Arc, and Bungie say we've made a few adjustments to Delicate Tomb to help it get the Tempest Cascade loop a bit more predictably and give it significantly more punch while buffed. So they say increase the chance to make an Ionic Trace from minor combatants from 4% to 10%, and increase the PvE damage bonus of the Tempest Cascade shot from 30% to 100%, and remove the timer from Tempest Cascade, and it lasts until fired. Next up we got a very interesting one. This one is Darcy, long used to measure various things in Destiny 2, but now it looks like it's going to be a little bit better. So Darcy has long struggled to compete with its exotic brethren, so Bungie are taking a stab at building its niche for a fire team in a way Galahorn and Ergo Summer found it for their respective weapon types. So the new catalyst may give you an edge up in encounters where snipers may not have been previously viable. So added a new catalyst perk, Network Targeting. Hits with personal assistant active grant you and nearby allies improved overall weapon performance and precision damage with non-exotic sniper rifles. Improves recoil, flinch and target acquisition, handling and precision damage. It stacks up to 5 times, and Darcy also gets the buff itself, and the Darcy user gets 15% damage after granting 5 stacks to a teammate. So that is an absolutely epic buff there to Darcy. Going to be really interesting to see that one, and let me know in the comments what you think. Next up we've got Edge of Action, Edge of Concurrence and Edge of Intent. So the class exotic Glaes have felt a little bit clunky since the addition to the game, and Bungie say they've made a few changes here along with the global changes to Glaes. It's going to help smooth over the gameplay loops on each of those, as well as adding an additional neutral game value outside of these special shots. So with Edge of Concurrence affects the jolting feedback trait added to the intrinsic perk. Edge of Action, that affects the destabilizing rounds trait added to the intrinsic perk. And Edge of Intent affects the incandescent trait added to the intrinsic perk. I also added Cure Pulse to a special shot impact, and that looks very good indeed. Next up we've got Centrifuge, also going to be good next season with the Arc changes. So Centrifuge's perk that reloads the magazine while sprinting encourages pivoting and repositioning, but as it stands the magazine is just a tad restrictive and sometimes feels burdensome in PvE content. Increase the magazine size to increase the potency of the perk, and the magazine has been increased to 45. Next up we've got Dead Messenger, Hard Light and Borealis. So Bungie have had a look at the exotic perk, the Fundamentals, to modernise it just a little bit there. So elemental keywords such as Restoration and Volatile have become part of Destiny 2's modern fundamentals. The stat bonus based on the current element has been removed in favour of a damage bonus when you apply or receive an elemental keyword matching the current element. Also giving a small stat bump to Borealis since some high skill PvP players have taken a liking to its current stat offering. So with the Fundamentals, a new effect is grant a 30% damage buff, that is 10% in PvP, to the weapon for 10 seconds when you apply or receive an elemental keyword that matches the currently selected damage type of the weapon. They've removed the effect, so no longer grants the different stats based on the current element, and for Borealis only, increase the stability by 20 and aim assist by 10 to permanently grant it the void element bonus that will no longer have access to, since Borealis is a sleeper pick in PvP. Next up we have Testo. So Bungie are definitely taking a risk here, touching Testo. You know what happens in the past This was the buggiest weapon in the game, so touch this weapon at your own risk, but I reckon it's going to be pretty good. So with Testo, Bungie say overall Testo is a solid weapon, but it lacks a solid high point in its power fantasy and does not interface with build crafting very much. Additionally, the weapon has a unique dual identity as a weapon associated with the Awoken Harbingers in-universe and associated with a storied history of Telesto-specific bugs in our community. You got that right. So with that in mind, we gave it a buff that embraces both aspects and ties them together in a single, deeply self-referential package. How do you buff Testo? Well, you simply make it more Testo. So, Testo, Harbinger's Pulse, now only refills Testo ammo from reserves, instead of Testo and your kinetic slot weapon, now triggers with any void final blow, and final blow requirements increase from 2 to 3, however Testo final blows count double, in other words it will trigger from 2 Testo final blows, 1 Testo final blow, and another void final blow, or 3 other void final blows. Also, we got a multi-kill timer increasing from 2 seconds to 4.5 seconds, and on the catalyst there's a new perk called Harbinger Seethe. After 3 activations of Harbinger's Pulse, special reload the weapon to cause a rain of Testo projectiles on your next direct hit. That sounds absolutely crazy, and I'm really looking forward to jumping into that next episode. Okay, next up we have another glaive. This one is Vex Caliber. So with the buffs last season to Void's overshield effectiveness, it seemed like the weapon could use a few tweaks to take maximum advantage and emphasise the Paladin Projector fantasy with an area overshield. So Bungie say they've made it easier to generate guard energy and PvE content when wading through enemies, and quicker to apply overshield to your allies. As a weapon made to hunt and kill the Vex, we figured this was also a good opportunity to reinforce this theme as well. So triggering Perpetual Loophole by scoring a melee kill while your overshield is active now also fills your glaive energy to full. Slightly increase the Void Overshield trickle-on rate to nearby allies and yourself while guarding, and increase the potency of Excalibur's innate advantages against the Vex. Next up, Warcliffe Coil. So Warcliffe Coil is a classic weapon that's easy to use but lacks a niche and a lot of content. We want to double down on the thematic chaos with a tie-in with the new arc keyword Bolt Charge, which Warcliffe Coil will grant stacks to all nearby allies when fired, and this change should appeal to players who want to bring more firepower to their team, without needing a game plan and more complex than stand near allies, look at enemies and pull the trigger. So it's got a new intrinsic effect, so it grants 1 stack of Bolt Charge to all nearby allies for every 2 rockets fired, and that is 4 stacks per trigger pull. Next up we got the Queenbreaker. So one of the most requested features for the weapon was to be able to special reload and swap between scopes while in the game. And Bungie say they've added that functionality along with some other changes to make the scopes firing mode feel unique. So players can special reload at any time to swap between scopes. Marksman sights retain the previous behaviour of firing a single shot that changes nearby targets and blinds them. And the range of the chain is increased from 8 to 10 meters to make chaining easier. Combat sights now alter the weapon to fire a 3-round burst at a charge time of 533. Sustained damage on a target decreases the time of the weapon down to 300 charge time with no loss to damage. Next up we got the Colony. So the previous change to the Colony did some interesting things, but it still ends up losing out to other grenade launchers due to its base gameplay and proximity detonation behaviour. And Bungie say they've made changes to push this close to other grenade launchers in damage. So increase the detonation damage by 40%, and it puts the damage per shot above the legendary drum grenade launchers, and increase the number of bots spawn by 1 for all enemy tiers except players. So players is 1, minor is 1 to 2, so elites or mages that's 2 to 3, and with champions, mini bosses and bosses it's gone from 5 to 6. Next up we got Quicksilver Storms. The previous changes to the weapon were a little bit too much, so we've rolled those back some. So reduce the shots required to trigger a rocket by 17%. So that should make the Quicksilver Storm a little bit easier to use. Next up we got the Legend of Icarus. So Icarus has long been viable, but it is particularly niche. With the shotgun changes doing well in the last release, we wanted to give this a bit of love at the same time. So reduce the spread angle by 33% and increase the maximum projectile range from 12 to 18 meters. Got a couple of more exotic shotguns here. So the 4th Horseman, and this one has also been a particularly niche weapon, And they've made some changes to help it excel at its mag dump weapon fantasy, so reduce the rate of fire slightly to give more control over wasting shots, and loads ammo from reserves to the magazine per kill. Next up we have Lord of Wolves, so it's had a storied history of terrorising multiple parts of the game, and has caught a number of nerfs because of it over the years. With the release and the success of Choir of One, we've taken a similar approach to redesigning this iconic weapon. So they've increased the range and reduced the base damage, removed accuracy penalties from the standard fire mode, released the Wolves now triggers on hipfire instead of special reload, fires full auto, greatly increased the damage and the rate of fire, reduced the accuracy and the range, and on the catalyst the reload speed and stability boosts are now built in. When the release the Wolves is active, dealing damage to targets scorches them, and when aiming down the sights, defeating targets spreads scorch to nearby combatants. Well, finally then, we've got Cloudstrike, so again, this is going to be interesting with an arc-focused episode, next episode starting next Tuesday. So since Bolt Charge is about creating devastating lightning bolts, it seemed appropriate to interweave that with Cloudstrike's gameplay loop. For Bolt Charge, ability is the only way to discharge max stacks, unless you're behind a Striker Storm Keep barricade. These changes allow Cloudstrike to quickly build stacks which can help bring your melee abilities faster thanks to Bolt Charge, or cashing quickly with an extra bolt lightning attack when paired with Storm's Keep. So added behaviour to Stormbringer's perk, rapid precision hits create a lightning storm at the point of impact and grant a stack of Bolt Charge, added a behaviour to Mortal Polarity, so precision final blows generate a lightning bolt at the target's location, and grant a moderate amount of Bolt Charge. So we've got one more weapon, and that is Thunderlord. So since Cloudstrike was updated with Bolt Charge, it was only natural to turn our sights to the original Lightning Creation Menace. For Thunderlord, our goal was also to tie in what Thunderlord is already doing, and reinforce its gameplay mechanic, which is generating lightning through sustained fire. Similar to Cloudstrike, this means Thunderlord will be great at building stacks, and melee ability energy will also get an extra kick with Bolt Charge lightning attack when paired with Storm's Keep. So added behaviour to the Rain Havoc perk, so final blows of the weapon generate lightning strikes from above, and lightning strikes grant a stack of Bolt Charge and is strong against overload champions. Well, loads of really exciting changes there coming to exotic weapons next season, but let me know in the comments what you think. But that is it for this video today, looking at the exotic weapon buffs coming in Destiny 2 episode Heresy. And as always, thank you so much for watching or for listening. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below for even more Destiny 2 content here on A Game Express. Thanks again, and I'll see you very soon.